welcome back to Beauty Bee and welcome to my review for the Girls Getaway Trio from theBalm. I've had this for right about a year now and I have used it 50 plus times. So over those 50 uses I have definitely developed some thoughts and we will get into those a little bit later in the video. I wanted to start out though with a mini tutorial on how I used this palette as well as my trusty little Mary Luminizer to get the look that I'm showing today. Alright, I am starting with everything primed. I've put some powder on top of my face primer as well as my eye primer, and we're going to get into using this Balm Girls Getaway Trio. So I wanted to do something really basic and simple, the kind of makeup that I would probably do if I was taking this and just one other product, in this case my theBalm Mary Luminizer, as all of my face powders and eyeshadows for a trip. So I'm going to start with a crease brush and go into a little bit of Balm Desert. I'm just going to put this on in a very diffused way. I do want to give myself a little bit of a shadow in the deepest part of my crease, but I'm not looking for anything dramatic, which is good because this product is not going to give me a dramatic eye look. I would be disappointed. So let's see. For the purposes of showing you guys these products, I'm also going to go into a mixture of Balm Desert and Balm Beach and just run that under my eyes. Additionally, I'm going to go into a little bit more of Balm Desert and deepen up my outer corner. Now just on my finger, I'm going to take Mary Luminizer and put that over all of my lid and into my inner corner. Oh, there's actually a mirror on this too. Don't need to be switching between the two. Alright, and there's the eyeshadow look done. Now moving on to my face, I'm going to start with my blush and I'm going to use Balm Springs. I'm just going to tap into that and hit the apple of my cheeks. Now for bronzer, I'm going to actually switch brushes. I'm going to do a little bit of contour with Balm Desert. This is probably not the brush I would usually pick, but the brush that I would generally use is dirty, so this is what we are sticking with today. You know, there's a little bit of definition there. Okay. And then I'm going to go back into my bigger brush that I used for blush. I think that was right. I have blush on this side. I'm just going to flip it around and go into a tiny bit of Balm Desert, but mostly a lot of Balm Beach, and use that as my all-over bronzer on my forehead. And then over the bridge of my nose, on my cheeks a little bit, on my chin. Since I do have Mary Lou out, I'm also going to use just a hair of that on my cheek. But then we're done. All right, I'm gonna go finish up the rest of my makeup and we'll get into the review. Alright, so now that you have seen the palette in action, let's talk a little bit more about this Girls Getaway Trio. There are 3 products in here, all of which were at one time existing products in the Balm's line. We have Balm Springs, which is a blush, Balm Beach, which they also describe as a blush, but I additionally use as a bronzer, and then Balm Desert, which the Balm says is either a bronzer or a blush, but I can't make work as a blush. For me, it's just a bronzer. So here are swatches. You can see a little bit of powdery patchiness with Balm Springs, but I don't find that really shows up on my cheeks. That's just a problem in the swatch. They are pretty smooth, they're nicely pigmented. The quality overall on this palette I find to be quite nice. Like I mentioned, these were all at one point products that you could get individually in the Balm's line. However, they are now down to just having Balm Desert available on their website of the 3. That is this deepest shade, and I want to note that though Balm Desert is available, if you look at the ingredients list for Balm Desert in this palette versus Balm Desert available as the single, they're not the same. So it's not the same formula as you would get in the original. I don't know quality-wise how they compare because I've never owned the full-size Balm Deserts. Price-wise, this is currently listed at $24 on the Balm's website, and I would not suggest getting anything on the Balm unless you are getting at least 30% off. They run a sale like that seemingly about once a month, so there's no reason to pay full price for this or anything else on their site. The full size of Balm Desert by comparison is $21. Now there is definitely a size differential. The full size bronzer is 6.4 grams, whereas each of these pans contains 3.3 grams. So the pans in here are about half the size that you would get if you purchased the individuals from the Balm. Show you from the side. I think it looks like Balm Desert is probably the one that I've used the most of, and you cannot see the ridges of the pan. There isn't a significant dip even. You can see the sides of the pan a little bit more than you can on the others, but still nowhere close to hitting pan. Yes, these are half the size of the singles, but I don't think you are going to go through these super quickly. So gram for gram or ounce for ounce, the powders in here are a little bit less expensive than they are in the individual full size. So if you are interested in one or both of these other shades in addition to Balm Desert, I think that this would be the better deal for you. However, if you are only interested in Balm Desert, it may make more sense to just purchase the full size, save that extra $3, and have twice as much product. The problem that I notice with some face palettes is the pan size. I do not see this as a problem with this palette at all. This is a very good size brush. I use this generally for bronzer, and I mean this can fit pretty comfortably into any of these. However, if you're someone who likes to dip into your powder and then sort of swirl your brush, you might have a hard time only picking up one. However, these are pigmented enough that I don't think you would want to do that anyway. I think that you would end up with a pretty serious case of clown face if you tried to dip in and swirl and then apply with Balm Springs in particular. Quick note about the packaging. This is quite slim. It is really a very nice size. Compact. I think that this would fit in pretty much any makeup bag quite easily. There is a mirror in here. Mine is dirty because, I don't know, I didn't bother to clean it up. It does have a cute little surrounding though. I like that a lot. And there is a magnetic closure. That's important to note because a lot of the Balm's new packaging has this kind of annoying little paper tab that keeps things closed rather than the magnet. While they say that that is more eco-friendly, and I have no reason to not believe them, I don't feel that it is quite as secure as this magnet is. Now, looking at each of these shades individually, Balm Springs is a warm toned peachy pink matte blush. I find that this shade has some oomph to it. I have definitely overloaded my brush on accident and ended up with a lot more color on my cheeks than I intended. It is not that easy to blend in or blend away though, so I would be careful with this shade, especially if you have fair skin. And I don't know that I would recommend this palette to a beginner specifically because of the shade. I think that you could go very overboard on this very quickly and there wouldn't really be a super easy way to fix it. It's kind of one of those shades that you're either going to go in with a ton of powder on top, which works for me because I have normal skin, but if you have dry skin, could start looking really cakey or really fast, or you take everything off and start from scratch. Balm Beach is a beige shade with a lot of rosy undertone to it. I think that this is a beautiful blush shade, and I also find that it makes quite a nice bronzer for me. I'm pretty fair, and this is deeper than my skin tone. Additionally, I think that rosy undertone that it has does help it look a little bit more natural. When I do get a tan, it hasn't happened this summer, but it does happen on occasion. My skin does tend to get a little bit pinker as well as a little bit deeper, and I think this really nicely mimics that effect. Now this is a fairly light shade. It is not going to work for you if you have a deeper skin tone, but on my skin tone, I find that it's a really nice mixer for either one of these shades to make them a little bit lighter, a little bit more approachable. Desert is the final shade in this palette. It is the deepest shade. The Balm says that this can be used as a blush or a bronzer, and I mean, of course, you can use your cheek products however you would like. I find that on my skin tone, this is just a bronzer. This doesn't work for me as a blush. It just doesn't look right. There's something, I think just the depth and the amount of cool toned brown that is in this color just doesn't jive with my coloring. However, I have seen other YouTubers wear this as a blush and it looks really pretty on them. So totally going to differ depending on your skin tone. Now I would say that this is very slightly less pigmented than Balm Springs is, but it is, I think, a little bit more easily blendable. I mean, I think you saw in the try-on portion, I used this as a contour right here and I put a little bit too much down, and just with my finger I was able to blend it out, blend it in a little bit, and I think it looks fine now. You can choose to disagree if you want and let me know, but I think it looks nice. I will often, as I showed in the earlier clip, mix Balm Beach and Balm Desert to get a little bit of an easier all over bronze shade for me. I quite like that effect. That is one thing I really like about this palette, is I feel that these three shades are very cohesive. This is the kind of thing that I could realistically pack and just use these three as my cheek products for quite a while and be happy with the effect that I got. You also saw in the try-on portion that I used these as eyeshadows. I do think that these two shades in particular make really nice eyeshadows. This is, not a bad eyeshadow shade, it's just not one that I'm super into, so I don't tend to use it that way very often. Nowhere on this packaging or on the Balm's website that I could find did it say that these were or were not eye safe. However, I've never experienced any irritation. Your mileage may vary. be careful with really any cosmetics and really take note of any irritation or any problems before they can get serious. Now this is going to be personal preference, but I do not really like doing all matte eye looks. These are not the most matte, dry looking powders that you will ever see, but they are pretty darn close to being fully matte. I think there is the tiniest bit of a satin sheen to Balm Beach in particular, but they are really, really close to being completely matte. So as you would have seen in the try-on clip, I decided to pull in Mary Luminizer. I actually think that this is the same. No, this is actually a little bit smaller than the powders in the Girls Getaway Trio. But I, again, just have a mini. This is a golden champagne shade, but definitely on the lighter side of golden champagnes. So while I definitely would want to supplement with something if I was going to be using this as my primary eye and face palette, I don't think I really need to supplement very much. I would be pretty happy taking just these two color powder products for a weekend away. I think that would be totally fine. So my overall thoughts, I find that for me this is very worth it. I really do like Balm Beach and Balm Desert in particular. I think that Balm Springs is a nice product, but just for my personal preference, I feel like it is A, a little bit too easy to go overboard with, and B, just not my favorite type of blush shade. I tend to prefer something a little bit cooler than this and a little bit more on the pink side. This is just much more of a peachy, pinky peach, so not quite my favorite. However, I think that it is a nice little palette. If these colors appeal to you, I do not think you will be disappointed with the quality, and I'm really happy that I purchased this. I mean, there is a reason that I have used this 50 plus times, and it's because I really do enjoy it. So that wraps up my review on this little palette. If you own this or have tried it out, I would be really interested in hearing your thoughts. In particular, if you own the individual compact of Balm Desert and can say how that's worked out for you in comparison to this palette, if you feel that the quality is similar, even if the formulas do differ a little bit, I think that would be really helpful for people to know. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing if you enjoyed today's video, and I hope that I will see you in the next one. Bye!